I'm toast. Right on.
Hello and welcome to the Walrus analysis of the 10 past 5 TikTok race. George, Teo and I were giving this one a crack. So my part in this race was pretty limited as I had to leave after 20 minutes to go and get the dinner on. But as I left, Teo and George were happily chugging along with the main peloton. It was flat and had no brakes had gone up the road, so they were both just trying to hold on so they could have a crack at the sprint. Here we join George in the front group, and they've just hit the second and last small bump on this almost entirely flat course. And we see George here in orange, putting out some good watts, but he's too far back in this group, 30th here. And when the bunch is really strung out like this, as soon as one rider ahead of him loses a wheel, he's going to be in real trouble. And soon enough you can see these small gaps opening, and whilst George is holding his wheel fine, he realises that he has to start trying to close down some of the gaps ahead of himself. This is a really desperate time for George now, as the gaps start to get bigger, and he has a lot of work to do if he wants to stay in contention for this one, as once that front group goes, it may never come back. And in the distance there you can just see the head of the race, and it really is starting to get away from George now. This isn't looking good. And sure enough, separation happens on this small descent with two distinct groups forming. George is in the second one, and the front one ploughs on without our plucky hero. And that was the end for George. Their group didn't have the organisation to chase back on, and George's great hope was gone. So we leave George and switch to Teo, who through some good positioning has managed to make the right side of that split. He is now settling into this group nicely. They've got 10k left of flat to go, and there's no break up the road, so it's an almost guaranteed sprint finished, but there's not much action going to happen, so we'll flip forward to the end of the race. We've rejoined the race here with just over a kilometre to go, and looks like one rider has shot off the front going for the long bomb. Teo is watching carefully, sitting in third place. Looks like he wants someone else here to chase down that solo rider out front, which is very sensible. But this is where Teo makes a small mistake, as he just sits on the front and at times putting out some serious watts, but just dragging the rest of the group along merrily behind him. I think he would have done a little better if he had taken his foot off slightly and just drifted back into the group here. So it's with just under a kilometre till the finish line, and the pace seems to be increasing and some attacks start to happen. Two riders create a little gap, but it's not really enough, and it just provides a target for anyone sprinting from behind to try and make up to them and then pass them. So Teo is sitting in the wheels here, and I actually think he's in a pretty good position. With about 500 metres left, it's nearly time for him to start sprinting. And then here comes the key moment. See this guy here in blue bibs. He's out of the saddle, so you know he's hammering it, and his watts per kg have been lit up into the red. And what Teo needs to do here is to jump on his wheel and just follow him as he shoots through the fields. But Teo doesn't quite see it, and he opens his sprint up about 2 seconds too late, so he doesn't catch the guy's wheel, but just sort of gets stuck in the draft of the group, which is a bit of a shame because he really could have been dragged right to the finish line there. And as you see this guy in the nice red canyon smooth through the whole fields and get out in front, and he's going at serious speed. There's a very nice sprint there from him. And if you look over on the right, you can see that he comes home first there, and if Teo just caught his wheel, he could have been on the podium. But as it was, Teo fights the pack to hold on to a decent 8th place. So some great work there from a couple of Walrus, and also some things to work on from the team. See you next time.